Welcome everybody. Just before I pass you on to Sarah, I would like just to highlight a few technical issues. For your information, the session is going to be recorded, and by default, all your mic are on mute. So if you have to speak, you will have to unmute. If you cannot hear or you cannot see, restart the webinar. And if you have any comment or question, please address it on the chat. Okay, with all, I pass it on to Sarah.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name's Sarah Cummings. Great to see you here today. Good afternoon here from the Netherlands, and good morning or good evening wherever you may be. A warm welcome to KM4DEV, which has been a community of practice running for the last 20 years. And we're looking at KM in organizations, but also what Chris Zielinski calls the space with it between organizations. We're also looking at knowledge at the local level, at local knowledge and indigenous knowledge. Today we're looking at the impact of KM4DEV over the last 20 years, but this is really a party, so a very warm welcome to the party, and a particular warm welcome to the non-members and potentially future members, as well as the old hands. So thank you very much, and now I hand over to Jorge. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, it's very nice to be here as a member of this community. What Sarah said, we are celebrating 20 years of this group, 20 years in which, of course, many things have been going on. The world has changed a lot, and we have been doing a lot as a network, individuals, of course. So we would like to reflect a little bit on what has this been, what has it meant at the end of all these sessions, of all these celebrations, also by looking at what do we do next and what's the purpose of this network in the coming 20 years. There is a lot to discuss, and you will see we have organized a series of sessions and where we are going to be addressing separately some of the main issues that we have been thinking of, that we have been discussing about throughout the past 20 years. And of course, as I said, we're going to be looking at the end of the celebrations, what do we do next? This whole process is something that we're going to be doing from all over the world, around the world exercise in 24 hours. You're invited to join, of course, all these different sessions and to participate in all these discussions. But we would also like to stress that this is something which did not really start today. No, we've been discussing already, we've been sharing a lot of ideas, we've been already trying out these different technologies as we're doing right now. And some of you have been very active in these cafes that have been going on throughout the past week. We started a few weeks ago with one of what we call the first knowledge cafe, and I think it was an instant hit. So we've been repeating them every week. And in each of these sessions, we've been discussing ideas, sharing opinions, looking back at what we've done, and also looking a lot at what should we be doing, what should we be discussing, what should we be doing better perhaps in the future. So what we're trying to do with these sessions of today and tomorrow is build on this and then continue discussing and continue addressing what we need to be doing. We have been having these cafes. I think we were very successful. So this is a very nice moment to thank Rocio, who's been the key person behind all of these cafes and not saying very much, but doing a lot behind the screens and making sure that not just everybody was admitted, everybody was sent to groups. There was a very nice video summarizing. So we are also happy to have videos, as we're going to see in a minute, about all the things that we have done and all the things that we have discussed. So thanks a lot, Rocio, and thanks to all of those who helped organize these cafes and who are going to also continue helping, not just today, but also with the upcoming cafes in the future. There's been a lot going on in the past 20 years. So we wanted to start by looking a little bit. What has it been? Now, I was not member of this network at the very beginning. I joined, and actually I think that I have done very little. So myself, I know very little of everything that's been around, all the discussions that a lot of people have been having. So what we wanted to do is to reflect a little bit. What has it been? What have you all been doing? And then kickstart the sessions that I mentioned. And I give the word to Yasmin, who's going to lead us to the next part.
Hello, everyone. It's so lovely to see you all. Hope you're having a great time. I'm super excited. So Rocio, if I may ask you to continue with the sharing, with the slide first, because I'd like for us to make sure that we are like really super into this opening plenary session. So we would like to, Rocio, please kindly share the PowerPoint. Yeah, voila, continue. Right. So let's make sure that we are upskilled with our Zoom annotation skill, because we're going to use it. I'm going to ask you to use it later on. So some of you, many of you might actually already know this, but if you look up top most part of your screen, you're viewing Jorge's screen, and you have view options right there, and you see there an annotate. So in that annotate, if you click on that, you see that it opens a toolbar similar to what you see here, and it has several options here. You have a mouse, a text, a draw, a stamp, an arrow, eraser, format, and redo, clear, save. So what we're going to do now is we're going to practice using this annotation, but not just for practice sake, because we're going to ask you to do something. So if you can click on the stamp and select the heart. And so we start, of course, KM4Dev is about you as well as KM practitioners for development. And we just want to have a feeling of how you are. So how you feel about yourself today, and how you feel about our 20th year celebration, because happy birthday to us, we're 20 years old. Okay, I see hearts coming, very nice. Well, they're everywhere. Huh? This is what happens when you open a screen for annotation. I'm really happy that you're all super engaged. I want to see more of the hearts in the I feel super happy about myself, and I feel super happy about this 20th year celebration. So more hearts in that direction. But okay, so that's great. Thank you for all the lovely hearts. We're going to save this and we're going to post it in our website, okay? so then now this is our 20th year, and this session is really about looking back, because tomorrow we will be looking forward. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as we look back, we would like to first see and hear from some of the people who have been with us in KM4Dev, and how it has started to change their, what they've been doing, what they've been feeling, what they've been thinking about KM4Dev. So Rocio, over to you to show some of the opinions and perspectives of our KM4Devers. Oops.
Quite sort of in line with the World Bank idea of a few big players in development who had all the knowledge and who saw the need for dissemination of that knowledge. At a certain point in the first decade, it really changed to being an open and welcoming community, and that is what we are trying to build on since.
I mean, I was involved with Bellonet at the time that KM4Dev came into being. The idea was to be open, but I do know that the initial interactions were among a small group of mostly donor agencies. There were some multilaterals as well. It didn't take long for it to evolve into a more open-ended and diverse community with a huge amount of energy. And it was about people who had a common interest in KM in a development context.
I joined in, I think it was 2002. It had to do with professional development. So I did a little bit of research and found that, the World Bank and the World Development Report on knowledge, that they were sort of the leaders at the time. And then I discovered KMDEV.
Became a member when I joined the Asian Development Bank in 2003. I joined, I think it was a meeting which was organized by the World Bank in 2004. And there were a lot of practitioners, about 50, 60. And it was a very energizing group which brought new elements of knowledge management to the attention. Like communities of practice, especially how to make it work. The discussions we had with the evaluations group. And a group where you pose questions or exchange information with. I still have a lot of friends from the early years which are close to my heart in terms of what they it is they have brought forward into the KM4DEV community.
That's 2008, I'm sure, yeah.
Okay. I'm someone who doesn't write very often on the list, but I like reading all the messages.
I joined back in 2010. KMD has been like the core of my being. It's about developing and sharing knowledge. I'm very appreciative of the group.
And I'm a new member. I just joined it 2 or 3 days ago. And I'm interested because I'm an information knowledge manager and I'm eager to contribute to the discussion with all the community. In 2006, and I'm still in the sector because it's something which is really fits home.
I joined because I started working in knowledge management a year ago. I work for a UN agency and we are strongly working to improve our knowledge management actions, to join the community, to learn more and to see the discussions and to join some of the discussions.
FAO was working on its strategy for knowledge management. Lucie Lamoureux was the facilitator of the KM4DEV community. Her dynamism and the way she was energizing us made me decide that I need to join this community. I think that one of my first real meetings was in Almeida in Portugal. Since then, I tried to go to almost all the annual meetings. In 2009 in Rome, it was also a good opportunity to involve more the UN agencies. It stopped at some stage due to funding issues, but now this virtual way of collaborating is fantastic. And what is also really nice is with KM4DEV, this was the right place also to test our facilitation skills, to try new methods, because there was no fear to fail. It was a trusted environment among all different types of organizations. So energize people, but organizations. And the changes in many organizations now is also influenced by what KM4DEV has been doing. So I'm very proud to be part of this family. It's good that we can celebrate this all together.
Super! Aren't you
Nice.
also super proud to be part of this community? Indeed. And of course, we will also be hearing from you afterwards. But let me show you a few very interesting diagrams. And Rosia, please, we can get back to our screen. Because, you know, that tells you a bit of a story of how far back KM4DEV has been. And we've always tried to capture our activities, you know, our life, our evolution in diagrams. I mean, you know, that's one thing that we love as KM people, right? Different ways of telling the story. So we've had all kinds of journey diagrams, rivers of lives, etc. I'm showing you a couple now. This one is actually from 2008 when the KM4DEV community met in Portugal. So the fishes and the boats. You know, I won't go through the details, because there's no time. Then we have another one, a really interesting one, super long. And this was in Rome in 2011. So those of you who were there, I can see, some of you there and smiling. So you remember that? You remember your little post-it that just stuck in there with the little vehicle that that represents you and your journey. And so what we're going to do now is actually start completing this, because this was the last, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, of a sort of like collaborative journeying diagram that we did as a community. So we will try that now, and we will do that by, if you move to the next slide, Rocio, we will do that by trying to fill in this. I and Jorge will be trying to write those little milestones in here where we've already migrated some of our key milestones as a community, and we will continue to do that while listening to a few very interesting stories of our evolution and how far we've come. From 4 special people, special to the community, and I know, of course, definitely you know them. So we will start with Lucy, who is really the most Jurassic of us all. Sorry. And then we will move on to Peter, who will continue the journey. And then we'll move on to Charles. And then we'll move on to Sarah. Okay? And as they speak, we will try to add them in here. And then later on, we'll also hear from you using the stamp feature. All right? So let's do that. So Lucy, maybe just looking back, focusing on what we have done. Where were we before, like in 1995? And you know, what are the key things that you remember in terms of our milestones, the impact we've made in you know, in yourself, in organizations, in the field. Over to you, Lucy. Lucy? Oops, sorry, Lucy, we don't hear you.
We don't hear you, Lucy.
Oh no, no, we still don't. That's a shame. Okay, we can try again. You know how technology, huh?
Yeah, maybe we can pass to Peter and meanwhile.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we'll try to figure out with Lucy, and then in the meantime, Peter. So we'll have a bit of reverse, because I think Peter would like to cover like the middle part of our lives, because and then yeah. Okay. So we'll start with that, and then we will.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jasmine. I will hand over back to the grand old lady, Lucy, later on. Toy, that you sort out your microphone. I realized just this afternoon that I didn't stick to the script which was telling me to share with you after 2010. I just wanted to share that Jaap Pels, who calls himself also professor at the moment, was the one that pointed me to KM4DEV when we were both working in the water sanitation and hygiene education in the developing world. And we immediately translated this, even before I joined KM4DEV, into our program on resource centers development in about 8 countries across Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And it was absolutely great. We got so inspired by KM4DEV, but more than inspired, the conversation list that we still have, KM4DEV-L, a D group, an old dgroup.org, was a place where you could ask anything related to knowledge management in development. And within 24 hours, you would have all kinds of useful responses. And the same, if you had developed an idea and you shared it there, within a few hours, you would have comments from people all over the world. And that convinced me about this absolutely fantastic community of practice. I joined KM4DEV in 2006, and you could see that, me coming down on a parachute in the first streams, the river of life that Jasmine showed before. My real first face-to-face event was in Portugal, and then I was there at Brussels and Rome in 2014. Jaap and I shared the KM4DEV experience with the Deutsches Institut für Entwicklungszusammenarbeit in Bonn. That was also a very special experience. And one of the latest things I remember, and all of you are invited to comment on this, is the infographic. So we go more and more visual that Rocio, with some of my support, developed, and that we should use more in the future to make the access to the various platforms that KM4DEV offers more visible, more accessible to all of you. Future dreams I'll keep for later on. Thank you. Lucy?
Hello.
Yay!
Yay!
Yes, go for it, Lucy.
Okay, well, actually, I thought I was supposed to talk about the first 10 years and impact, but now I'm going to, that's what I kind of prepared, but I can tell stories as well. So I got involved back, well, when I was working at Belanet, and we were trying to support collaboration in international development. And of course, the first thing we tried to do was to go towards tools, because that's what you do. And then our director at the time had found out about knowledge management. And at the time, there was only the World Bank that was doing anything about knowledge management. So we thought, hey, let's do what we do best. Let's organize a workshop and invite people to come and talk about this knowledge management thing and see, you know, if it can be helpful to better collaborate, to better learn from each other. So we organized this first workshop, and then 6 months later, we organized the second one. And so that's how it all started. For those of you who are new, that started with about 60, 65 people on a mailing list. And well, 10 years later, we were up to 1,200 people on the D groups. So, and now I think we're up to something like 2,800 people on the D groups, and then on other platforms as well. So I think, you know, the growth has been exponential. What I can say in terms of the early days is that it took about, I would say, 3 good years to kind of build the community. And I was actually the second facilitator after Steve, who, I don't know if Steve is there. If you are, hi Steve. So I was kind of lead facilitator for about 8-9 years. And I think the first 3 years were building the community and trying to get people on board. And then after that, it kind of started to take off. And it's by the end of the first 10 years, it had really become a very mature community. I think in the beginning, it was a lot of people that were lost souls. There were one KM person, or maybe not even a KM officer. It was just a person who had been asked to look at knowledge management in their organization. And I think people kind of flocked together, and it was kind of like this support group of people that understood each other. And as Sophie mentioned in the video, became a family, because we were like these strange people trying to do KM. And so I think by the end of the 10 years, the first 10 years, it had become much more prevalent, and there were KM teams in organizations, at least in the bigger ones. And so for me, I think what I can say from the first 10 years is that there was this feeling of I belong here. I'm trying to do things that people don't understand, and I've got this group of people who can inspire me. I can ask questions. I can, you know, fail, as also Sophie said, and be in a safe space. So yeah, I think for me, it's always going to be my family as well. And I'm very thankful for the place that that you all have in my life, and I'm really happy to be here, part of it, and to say happy birthday. And yeah, so I'm going to pass it on to, oh no, Peter just did the last 10 years. I don't know who's next. So Jasmine?
Yeah, yes. So thanks, Lucy, thanks, Peter. Is Charles here? Charles.
Yes.
There you are, Charles.
Thank
okay,
you.
so Charles, I know that, of course, KM4DEV has had an impact on all of our lives, huh? And this has really, this is a known fact for all of us, and we've been talking about it, which is why we've grown, like in the website, it's 5,500 members. So already, so that's quite a lot. And I know, Charles, you're one of these people who have been really very vocal about how positively it has impacted your life, this KM4DEV community. So please, Charles, tell us more about that.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I'm so happy to join the group again. It's like we're really having a face-to-face today. Thanks so much. Let me just begin by saying I stumbled on knowledge management around 2002 when I was working with DFID, Crop Post Harvest Program in Southern Africa. That was when knowledge management was becoming more like a new, you know, some kind of, is it a brand or something? So I just got interested in it. And then later on, I started looking for institutions or organizations that talk a lot about it. People that probably could sharpen my brain around knowledge management. Coincidentally, I attended a meeting in South Africa in 2006. And there were people from Belanet, and then there was an organization called LDIS. I'm sure it was based in the UK. They had a little blue book very tiny book with a list of organizations and their websites. That's where I stumbled on KM4DEV. There was a website there, and then when I went back home to Harare, I clicked, and then I said, here it is. I started reading some stuff, seeing what was being published and all that. Yeah, Eldis, it was by ideas. Sorry, Brighton, yes. That's where I got the links really to get into a KM4DEV. So I got really interested, and by my first visit, face-to-face, was in Amalda. By the way, it was my first time to go to Europe. I'd never been to Europe. It was my first time to, I'd been to other parts of Africa, of course, but other parts of the world, no, not Europe. It was my first time in Amalda, Portugal. And I met Peter, I met many people, including Lucy and everyone. And, you know, there were, I think we were 4, if not 3 Africans like me. There were 2 guys, I'm forgetting their name now. One of them worked for an embassy or something. Apparently, it turns out they've all left the group. They're no longer part of KM4DEV. I tried to look for them. They went away. So 2008, yes, that was my first time. It was really good. Then I actually participated in many others. During those days, KM4DEV had a bit of funding for people from the South, like myself, who were struggling to get a foot into KM. So I was privileged really to participate in many of them. And then I went to Portugal, to Belgium, and then I was in Rome. And I'm sure that was the last. Over and above that, we had a couple of very interesting African versions of KM4DEV where we met Peter Ballantyne, Pete Cranston, and we organized some in East Africa. We had a couple of all these flavors of knowledge management that we really tried to bring into KM. So really, it became my family, and I'm really happy to, up to this day, one of my assignments was to pull many people from Africa, from the South, to mobilize as many people as I could. I've tried really, and it turns out it's to do with organizations. When you join with an organization, it's easy for many people, but once they leave their employer, it looks like many people fall out of KM4DEV. That's what I've discovered. I've been doing my own little research for myself, because I've set up my own organization. Really, it's a social entrepreneur. Knowledge Transfer Africa is my own baby. I started it in 2006. So it started off as a consulting company and all that. So I've used a lot of the knowledge from KM4DEV to really build it up. And up to now, I'm really glad that it's still going on. I've even been able to sponsor my own trips. I remember meeting Peter and in Germany. It must be 2013, I'm sure. And they were asking me, Charles, who sponsored you? I said, no, I sponsored myself too. Because I now want to seek knowledge. So that's what has happened to me. And maybe a bit about, look, I've read a lot about KM, and I'm now beginning to think about generating theories from the South. What is it that we can contribute? Looking at now, well, I've forgotten something about the KM award. Last year, but I got an award from a knowledge management award. I'm a member of that group led by Bradner. I got interested in it, and then I got an award there on 3 pillars of knowledge, and I'm using it a lot today. So I was about to talk about what I'm taking. My takeaway really going forward is to say, there's been a lot of complaints about so many theories of knowledge coming from the West, or maybe the North to the South. And now I'm looking at COVID and saying, look, suddenly it looks like what we were worshiping, many people from the South were worshiping, is under threat from COVID. There's something more powerful than getting a visa to UK or to Europe. You may use your knowledge from wherever you are. So to me, this is an aha moment. So recently I started thinking about making a distinction between spoken knowledge and written knowledge. I'm thinking much of what I do today, I work with farmers, traders, and many other people, where 95% of the knowledge is spoken, it's not written down. And I'm beginning to question and say, maybe we are not doing enough to incentivize or to recognize people with the spoken knowledge, not written knowledge. Because when you write knowledge down, you assume that you can quote a book by Robert Chambers and quote a book by Peter Drucker. But when you do that, you are saying, according to this, you are more like resorting to frozen knowledge, not fluid. So to me, I'm trying to make that distinction. So that's as far as what KM has done for me. I've been exposed to many practices, theories, and many other things. And now I'm beginning to think of what new ideas can I contribute. I'm sure I've overshot my time. Over to you, Rocio.
Right. No. So thanks, Charles. Really nice to see you again. Been a long time. So yeah, but you see, that's the power of this community, is that no matter how far away we are and how much time we haven't seen each other, we always get back together. So we're like this one big happy family, as all our three speakers have actually mentioned. But you know what? It's not just KM4DEV actually as one group, as one community, because there are actually notable spin-offs from KM4DEV. And so I'd like to invite at this point Sarah to speak about what this notable spin-offs are of the KM4DEV community. Sarah.
Thanks a lot, Jasmine, and nice to follow these other speakers and also to look at the KM4DEV journey online. What I'm going to be talking about are two spin-offs, which are really what I think are global public goods, and which I think is also the true for KM4DEV. But before I start, I just want to say that for me, KM4DEV has really been a very important part of my professional development. You know, certainly when I've been working independently or in hostile environments, it's been, as I think we all have occasionally, it's been just wonderful to have these friends online and within reach. So I've also been to lots of the different meetings. And in the early days when I was posting to KM4DEV, I was always really quite scared because, you know, like you're sending an email to 2,000 people. And I'd say to myself, Sarah, don't worry, KM4DEV is not a Politburo. Like the control is very diffuse and people are friendly. So I would always feel happy about that. And I'm glad to say it still isn't one, a Politburo. So the two things I'm going to be talking about are the KM4DEV journal, but also the agenda knowledge for development. But I could also talk about ICAM Emergent, the research project which took place between 2007 and 2012 with very many KM4DEV people. But maybe that's another story for another day to be told by Mike Powell. So the Knowledge Management for Development journal was started in 2005. We founded it with a group meeting, indeed, as you might have seen Peter Ballantyne's chat message at an office in IICD in The Hague. And in fact, Peter was there, Lucy and Chris Addison, I'm not sure if he's here, but also many others. And we started this journal on the Open Journal system, and it's now on its 14th volume. And it's open access, and we took very much a new approach, like trying to have a diversity of authors and also a diversity in terms of the editorial board, and also making it accessible to authors who haven't published before. So we had also, for example, a peer support process and many different types of contributions. So not only papers, but also stories or tools, many different things to try and make it relevant. And I know lots of the people whose pictures I can see here have been involved in the journal in many different ways. I mean, you know, there's probably too many to mention, to be honest, but like Denise, who's here, I've seen. Charles has written articles, Riff is now very much involved, Jorge, Rocio. So, and the special issues, the recent one was on impact, edited by Helen Gilman and Chris Zielinski and others, but we're now looking at one on learning from the future. So in this way, we've very much curated, if you like, the development of the field and also tried to document it, because quite often what's happening in organizations gets lost, and we have quite a number of articles on this, but trying to make it accessible after these organizations have moved on or done different things. So that's one example. And I mean, like, I thought of the journal sitting at my desk at KIT in Amsterdam, thinking, okay, if I could really choose what I would do in my career, what would I do next? And that's how it started. So really, for everybody who's involved in KM4DEV, there is this opportunity, I think, to start new initiatives and to encourage others to be involved. So that's why I think it's an interesting example. The other one is Agenda Knowledge for Development, which is really a brainchild of Andreas Brandner, who's here, and he's going to be also talking about it, talking more about it in the closing session. It is based on 14 knowledge for development goals. It has 14 knowledge to development goals, trying to put knowledge back into the SDG process, for example, particularly emphasizing local knowledge, which is not receiving much attention in the SDGs, but also the roles of arts and culture, which are not mentioned at all. And it's backed up by 200 individual statements outlining individual visions of knowledge for development and the SDGs. So I think I might have overshot my time a bit, but this is an example of an advocacy activity, and the journal is really of curation, but also advocacy and documentation. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Sarah. So yes, so you've heard some of these amazing things. It's so nice also to look through the chat, this the history of things that we remember the most, particularly the face-to-face events that we've been part of, this little milestones. We haven't captured everything in the diagram, but definitely we'll go back to it, and maybe we can have a call even via the mailing list to get your thoughts. So we really have a super complete KM4DEV journey afterwards. But for now, of course, this journey wouldn't have been as exciting and as rich if it hasn't been for you, for the members. So at this point, are you ready with your stamp? Please click on the view options and look for the stamp again, because we're going to do some stamping, and please only one click per. So we're expecting to see 71 hearts. Hold on. What are you going to do with your hearts? What you're going to do is to put your heart in the year that you joined KM4DEV. Okay, so where is it in this journey that we have that, like, goes left and right and all that? When did you join this community? Let's see. So we have all the hearts. It's so nice, huh? It's all the hearts coming in. Super cool. Waiting still for some? Okay. Nice. So super cool. So nice to see. We have actually a nice mix, no? So we have some oldies. Sorry for the term. But we also have some newbies and some people in between, like me. I joined KM4DEV in 2011. My first face-to-face event was in Rome, when we did that beautiful River of Life. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, so this is nice. This is really great. Now, what we would like to do is to now, having heard from our speakers how it has impacted them, what they've done since then, what are the thinking. Even like Charles was saying, it has also triggered some processes, thinking processes on KM with him. How about you? How has it impacted you as a person in your career in KM, in your organization? And what we would like to do now is to break you up into small groups, so we can have that small group discussion with your little team of, I'm not sure how many we're going to be, 5 or so. So Rocio is going to assign you to your groups, and we're going to share with you, 6, 7, we're going to share with you a link where you can then start jotting down some of your notes. It's going to be a PowerPoint deck, and you will be assigned a color. So if you're red, your team red, then you edit the red bit, yeah? So the red slide. That's correct, Rocio, no? We haven't changed that. Okay, so are you ready? So let's have that little group discussion, and then we will call you back in like 10 minutes. All right. So please initiate the breakout rooms, Rocio.
Yasmin is going to share with us what are we going to be doing in addition to the sessions. Yasmin.
Yes, okay. So of course, so just in the slide, just as a reminder, so Jorge was saying, it's actually the beginning of our 20th year of life. So, and the beginning of the 2-day celebration, yeah? So there's a lineup of like 8 sessions for you, 9 including the closing plenary. So please feel free to just to sign up if you haven't signed up, and take advantage of everything that we have that we've prepared for you. So some wonderful topics really in there. And then the last thing is, as we would like to continue this celebration even offline, outside of the session, at a rather social level, Sarah has actually put together a very interesting quiz for everybody. How well do you know the community? And you know how it will work? There's like, I think, how many, 18 or so questions? And it's a quiz type, huh? So and it's a competition, huh? So try it out. There is we're going to post the link in here. It's open. You can start answering it now. If you get stuck, you better contact somebody in the community who might know. Yeah. So then maybe you can enter as the 2 of you or the 3 of your little group. Yeah. To see who amongst you will win. Okay. So this we will share it with you, the link, and it's also in my slide deck, Rocio. It's going to be open up to, it was in my slide deck, like an hour before the closing plenary, and the winner will be announced during the closing plenary. So take part of that quiz, see how well you know the community, and let's see who gets to win the Memory of KM4DEV Award or something like that. Okay, so we send you off. Any final words from anybody before you then, I know you're super excited for the rest of the celebration to sign up for the sessions and be there.
Thank you for letting me join in.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody. We will see all of you in all the upcoming sessions right now. So we're starting immediately with the next one.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Birthday.
Okay,
That's
bye.
Thank
Happy
you.
20th anniversary. And thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. And I wish you a happy party day.
Yes.
Happy birthday. Bye.
Happy party day.